Great. So why don't we get started with the webinar? We are happy to answer any further questions about Child First. If there's any follow-up, please feel free to reach out to me, to reach out to Salam, to reach out to any of us. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar. We are hopeful that this is one of the many services that your families do need. And through our relationship with social venture partners in Connecticut, I was introduced to Patrick Gentile, who is retired from corporate America, and unlike perhaps many of his colleagues, has spent much time in his retirement working with underserved families in Fairfield County. Right now, his focus is on working with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, part of the IRS. I'm still unclear what the relationship is. Maybe Pat will get into that. And Pat has worked feverishly with his team, many of whom are on the call, to come up with a way to support families who need this type of assistance during this pandemic, which has led to the development of a very powerful website that I believe we're going to see a bit of. So let me turn it over now to Pat. And Pat, thank you so much for your willingness to meet with our team. I want to thank Sky Cornell from SVP, who's also on this call, for brokering all of this and all the fantastic work that they do throughout the state for the nonprofit community and for the people that we serve. So Pat, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bruce. And thank you very much for your support and for us having the opportunity from the executive board of the Lower Fairfield Virtual Vita site for the opportunity today to speak with your amazing care coordinators, who are really essentially such essential workers and are at the forefront of working directly with families during a time when there's tremendous anxiety and tremendous uncertainty for these families. And our hope and expectation is that we can be, at the end of this presentation, we can provide a value proposition service to help care coordinators give their families the economic cushion that they need by using some of the tax filing tools that we're going to speak about today. So we're very grateful for you to be able to spend some time with us, because we realize how busy you all have been. A little bit of background. The Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program in Connecticut has been around for a very long time. In fact, the VITA program itself has been around for over 50 years nationwide. So it is a nationwide program that is sponsored through many different organizations throughout the United States, and requires a rigorous certified exam every year to be taken by tax preparers who give their time for free. This is all volunteer time, and so many of our tax preparers spend in excess of 40 to 50 hours a week during the normal tax season trying to help our at-risk population, our low-income population, and our elderly population have the resources they need for free so that they can maximize and get their refunds as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of what we do and how you can help us. And I think and my colleague Paul Coughlin is on, and he is gathering chats. So as we stop at different points, if you have a question, if you need us to clarify something or follow up, he will read out those questions to us so that we can give you the answers that you need. And hopefully collaboratively together, we can work together to really make an impact in helping these people get their money that they so desperately need. So I'm going to just bring you through a little bit. What is VITA, and why is it vital to our community? And one of the things that VITA, the most important thing is that VITA is probably one of the most critical anti-poverty tools that exist in Connecticut. In essence, the sponsor of the entire group of 60 brick and mortar sites that we're going to talk about is the Connecticut Association for Human Services, led by uh, our VITA director, Takima Robinson, who's on the phone, and she'll talk a little bit later about the program. But we basically, our basic mandate and our basic mission is to use specific IRS anti-poverty weapons that we have. And those, what are those anti-poverty weapons? Well, it's the earned income credit, which, depending upon a family's income and family size, could be as high as $6,000 per family. It's the child tax credit for each child in a family, is upwards of $2,000 per child. And it's those children who are of low-income families that are going to college and are able to allow their parents to take advantage of the American Education Credit, which could be upwards of $2,500. In addition to all of those federal types of credits, the state of Connecticut also matches the earned income credit about 20%, 22% of the $6,000. Numbers on the side, for families that are definitely in need of receiving social benefits. And the earned income credit is really what we call a type of tax equalization. And we call it the negative income tax because it's supposed to help those families that are trying to get into the workforce, are working hard to try to do that, and try to reward them for the amount of time and effort that they've put working back in the labor force, and giving them the opportunity based upon a certain sliding scale to get a credit that kind of equalizes their pay. In fact, it's almost right now the greatest equalizer we have to getting towards that hypothetical $15 an hour type of minimum wage, if you will. So we have these four incredible credits in our arsenal. And now we have a final one, which is probably, the most confusing and the one that where we need to provide the greatest clarity. And that's due to the COVID-19 problem. And that's the economic impact payment, which everybody knows, everybody knows as fondly as the stimulus check. I'm sure that all of your families are probably saying, where's my stimulus money? Where's my stimulus money? I hope they're asking that. If they're not, that's why we need to be with them forefront so that we can help educate. But that in addition to all of the credits that you see up there are worth $1,200 per adult and $500 per qualifying child under 17. So these are some of the most impactful economic tools that we could give to help our ALICE population, that are at the severe poverty level, and also within the band of range that the ALICE population, between certain different levels of the poverty line. So that's our mandate. We try to do that by working collaboratively with many groups across the organization, across Connecticut. And so we're going to talk a little bit of how VITA is actually delivered. How do we deliver our critical mission? Well, we have close to 400 IRS trained certified volunteers throughout the state of Connecticut through the CAUSE program, through the Connecticut Association of Human Services, and we provide free tax preparation. There is no fee for this. We do everything on a volunteer basis, and we have over 60 brick and mortar sites that are usually given to us for free by libraries, churches, communities, and senior centers. And those places have provided a very secure, safe place for our clients, a place where our clients can go to and feel welcome and feel comfortable. We deliver and prepare over 20,000 returns a year and deliver about $26 million in refunds. And even on addition, over and above that, we provide close to $4 million in eliminating tax preparation fees. And now with what's going on with COVID, our biggest concern is that many of our clients who have not gotten to us, we're concerned about predatory tax preparation fees, because there are not a lot of places that they can go right now to get the service and the benefits that we can provide those clients with. So it's very critical this is our critical mission, is to be able to be in our neighborhoods, be part of our neighborhoods. Many of our sites are United Way sites, they're churches, they're major libraries, they're community centers that provide other services, and they're senior centers as well for our elderly, okay? Any questions so far, Paul?
No questions.
Okay, we're going to go on. So what are the challenges that have been created as a result of COVID-19 in servicing our VITA clients? That has been the greatest challenge that we have faced. What do we know? We know that 7,000 of our almost 20,000 clients have yet to find a way for them to be able to file their tax returns and get the refunds that they desperately need to allow them to have a cushion as we go through COVID and be able to provide for their families. We do know that there's tremendous anxiety and fear that has driven a lot of these clients underground because they just don't know where to turn to. As hard as we've been pressing and marketing and telling them that we're here for them on a virtual basis, there is just a tremendous paralyzing effect that has been created by COVID. It has paralyzed us on so many levels, and so this has been one of those levels where all of a sudden those people are just saying, oh, you know, I have so many other things, and you know, I'm hopefully going to procrastinate because I've got until July 15th to get my money. Well, you know, the problem is that we have all looked at this with a very keen eye to understanding that our brick and mortar sites will certainly never open up before July 15th. And even if they do, it'll be on a totally restricted basis. You know, the community centers and libraries are not going to allow our clients to congregate in a way that will allow us to service them. We've been working very closely with the governor's office and the state of the Department of Revenue of Connecticut, and through extrapolation statewide, in addition to the 7,000 that we are not getting to, there are approximately another 73,000 earned income families in the state who probably have yet to file through other means. So that means there's, you know, that means there's a total prospective population of 80,000 earned income households, low income households, that with an average refund of about $2,500 means that there's probably close to $200 million across the state in unclaimed refunds. And then on top of all of that, there are probably another, through extrapolation, there are probably another 80,000 of severely impoverished families that we define as being severe at 6% of the poverty line, who need to file the simple tax returns in order to get their economic income payments. So, because they're not in the IRS database, because at the end of the day, they have no income to report to the IRS. So there's no record of them. And so that there alone could be another 90 million of potential refund. So we're looking at some significant issues because there's $300 million of money that needs to get into these people's hands. And the challenge is we need to do everything we can to make that happen as effectively and efficiently as possible. Any questions at this point? Anybody? You can even take your microphone off. Don't be shy. Okay. So, what is our solution that we'd like to present to you today to see if we can collaboratively work together with your team? It's the virtual VITA solution that we've put into place 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, when we shuttered our last site, our executive team started to put together a plan of action to create a virtual end-to-end platform. So what is our solution? It is a web-based encrypted portal that asks the client some very simple filing questions and allows them to upload their tax documents to us. This portal has been approved and certified by the IRS. And the 60 brick and mortar sites across Connecticut have collaboratively worked together to come together into 8 virtual sites to cover the entire region of Connecticut. We have the complete backing of the governor's office to help get money immediately into the hands of our at-risk population. And we will have close to 200 IRS certified tax professionals working from home, manning the portal, where they will be able to turn around a tax filing in 24 hours or less. So this has been a time of the essence call to arms across the state amongst all our professional volunteers, and they have resounded to the bell just with tremendous passion. It's been unbelievably a remarkable transformation within a very quick period of time. Our executive team down in Lower Fairfield, which handles the inner city of Stamford, South Norwalk, parts of Bridgeport and Fairfield, we've done to date in 2 weeks already, we've done close to 250 returns using this virtual model. And the other 7 virtual sites are coming on board. And we have now a 12-week time horizon, because the clock has been reset to July 15th, to make sure that we can deliver to this population, the population that you serve and that we serve, as much refund as we can within that period of time. So we view the Child First Care Coordinators as a critical partnership, because you are the front line. We do not have the access to be able to, we can call the clients, we can talk to them, but there are clients that we can't get to that are critical to providing them with the economic relief they need. And you folks are at the first line of defense. And so with that in mind, we understand clearly that your client base is our base. But in addition to that, it is a client base who may not even realize that they're entitled to economic income payments. We need to collaboratively come up with a grassroots bottom-up approach, and we need to do that with partners in the community. And we believe that Child First coordinators are essential to helping us succeed in this mission. And what we're going to go through now is a way that if we can partner together and you folks can help us with the client to fill out and electronically send an intake, we can get refunds to those clients in a matter of days versus them waiting months and months like they did in 2008 when they were disenfranchised the first go around when they received stimulus payments. We were trying to avoid having a repeat of what happened when we had stimulus back in 2008. So I am going to take you to a very simple landing page in a second and show you how you can help us. But before I do that, I'd like to take some questions if I could. So I'm open for some questions before we go to the landing page.
I have a basic kind of question. Do any of your volunteers speak other languages?
Yes, we have one group of trained Latinos volunteers. So we do have Spanish speaking volunteers, but we could certainly use anyone within your group. We would be grateful for anyone within your group that could help us be translators. That would be just amazingly awesome to have additional firepower. We do know that down here in Norwalk, 70% of our population is Latino. I'm sure that you folks have some better indications on your own. What other types of languages are you coming into contact with that you need help on?
Well, very, very specifically, we have a Somalian family who speaks a specific dialect in Somalia called Mai. And I know she's been having some issues, a bunch of issues related to filing her taxes. So kind of interesting.
Brittany, how do you typically communicate with her?
We use a translator. We went through a translation company that our company works with.
So we could probably partner with the translation company to help the client fill out the intake and send it across to us. The intake is really from the economic income payment standpoint. If it's a simple tax filing, Brittany, it's really pretty straightforward. It asks for a lot of basic information. So I think, my feeling is our mission is that there's no reason whatsoever that anybody can't get across the line. And we're going to do everything we can to get them across the line.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you, Brittany. Anyone else? Any chats, Paul, that I need to address?
There are some questions on the chat.
Yeah, Pat, there was a question, the last question here, and I don't know if you want to get into it now or later, is handling social security numbers versus ITINs.
Yes.
Right, which is a hot topic.
Hot topic.
And also, there was a question about, hold on, there was another general question about someone had a specific case that they had thought of, and so maybe once we go through the tool set and we talk about the different cases that we've thought about, those might be more appropriate, or they might be covered in the presentation.
I think so. We'll definitely cover we'll take our time painstakingly to cover any iteration that the care coordinators have, so that we can see how we can help educate our clients. Okay.
Yeah, Pat, if I may, I also want to emphasize that if time runs out and there are still more questions, please feel free to contact me and I can get those questions over to Pat and Paul and their team. And we will certainly continue the dialogue well past the time that this webinar allows. So.
Absolutely. We serve undocumented. Okay, good. So we're going to cover a lot of these questions right now. So what we have done is try to create a landing page, a secure landing page that will allow you to easily, with your laptop or with your tablet, when you're doing your normal field work operations and working and checking in with the children and the families that you're servicing, is a very simple intake specialist economic impact payment decision chart. And so very simply, if we're going to take you through those different tool sets. The first one being if a family has already filed a 2019 tax return, which is a good thing, there is nothing more for us to do. We'd stop and we would ask them whether or not, the big issue that we have is whether or not they have put in, if they had a refund, whether or not they put in their direct deposit banking information. Because the economic impact payment is driven by whether or not a family has put in their bank account information, their checking account, and their routing number to effectively speed up the process of sending the money across through direct deposit. Those filers who do not have bank information in their tax return that's already been filed would have to wait close to, in some cases, close to 3 to 4 months before they would even see their stimulus check in a hard form check being sent to their home. And that certainly creates a whole series of logistical issues. If addresses are bad or if the mail is not secure, could create more anxiety and more issues for our clients. So if you file the tax return in 2019 and your client says to you, yeah, but I didn't put a bank account in, our first thing is for you to reach out to us so that we can lead them to the Get My Payment application on irs.gov. Right now, that payment application is not working, and so that's why, while it says check the EIP status, and you would click on to the EIP status, you can actually bring them there, and they can actually go online and put their information in to find out how to update their bank account information. So that would require them to put their social security number, date of birth, and an address, and it would then prompt them. It would prompt them to go to the next screen, which would be in essence, would you like to update your bank information? So if they filed a tax return already and they didn't put any banking information in, they can go to EIP status and update their bank information. If the household, if the family is only receiving, if they're just receiving specific government benefits like Social Security, SSDI, survivor benefits, veteran benefits. Once again, so long as there are not dependent children in the family, if it's just a single household who's on Social Security or a couple on Social Security, they will get their checks directly sent to them as well. There's nothing for them to do. They don't need to file a tax return. And once again, in most of those cases, the SSI people, the SSI cohorts, the SSDI and SSI survivors are either getting their money on a direct access card or they're getting it directly deposited into the bank. So my understanding from what the IRS is telling us right now is this group of people will also get their money sent to them directly through their bank account. And if they don't have the bank account, once again, we can update and put bank information in. So these first two decision matrix are very easy because it allows us basically to say, hey, you know, these people are already in the IRS database, and unless they need to be updated for bank information, there's really nothing else to do, and stimulus money will be coming forth to them, okay? With respect to anybody, any family that's SSI or SSDI that have dependent children under the age of 17, that's a different issue, and we would ask you to have them contact us directly, because in that case, in that instance, we will actually file a simple return for them, okay? So now, what happens next? If neither one of those first two instances have occurred, then we go on to the economic impact payment process. And the following questions will hopefully answer some of your questions that you've posed with respect to U.S. citizenship and which are documented people versus undocumented people. So if in a household there are U.S. citizens or permanent residents, and that's defined as people who have valid Social Security working numbers for work, if both members of the family have it, or at least one adult has it, we move on to going towards the completion of the economic impact payment intake form. If neither of the parents have valid Social Security numbers and have ITINs, meaning they're undocumented, then they need to actually file a regular tax return as resident aliens. So if both members of a household, husband and wife, are ITIN holders, they stop and they go to our normal, they would be directed to our normal income tax preparation site. I guess things are slow because we're on Zoom. There we go. It would take them to our normal site where we can service them. So we would have to prepare a regular tax return in that event, so long as they have income to report. If they have no income to report, then they don't need to file anything. But if they are both ITIN people and they are working and they have earned income, they're working at a job or they're working as independent contractors, then what we do is we bring them to our regular income tax site. If one of the members of the household, either the husband or the wife, at least have a Social Security number, then we bring them to the next part of the decision matrix, which is, do they have a bank account? And if they don't have a bank account and at least one of them has a Social Security number, we can easily enroll them in 10 minutes through the KeyBank hassle-free Bank On initiative that's sponsored by COS. And that would just mean to click on to KeyBank and answer within 10 minutes, within answering some simple questions and going through a security check test of answering certain private questions. And immediately a bank account number will be given to the member within the family that has a Social Security number. So once having a Social Security number, that ensures that when this family now files the non-EIP filer, which I'm going to take you through, once they file the non-EIP filer, They now have a way for them to get their stimulus money quickly. Okay? So now if one member of this family is undocumented, meaning ITIN, and the other one has a valid Social Security number, which we call a mixed household environment, you will see in the non-filer EIP that we will then go through the process of disaggregating both of them, meaning that one will be able to file a married filing separate return, and we take care of that on our end. We go through our decision matrix process based upon the information that's submitted in this intake, and we will file a simple return for the spouse that has the Social Security number, plus those dependent children that have Social Security number. We will aggregate those valid Social Security numbers in a married filing, separate filing, so that the husband or wife with the valid Social Security number and the children will get their money and will not be impacted because there is another spouse in the household that has an ITIN. Okay, so before we go to the non-filer EIP and I show you how it works, are there any questions? Because I know that this is a major, within Connecticut, within your households, there are many mixed families, many mixed households where one has a Social Security number and the other has an ITIN, or some of the children may not have Social Security numbers. Some may, and some may have ITINs. What we need to do is we need to aggregate. When the non-filer EIP is finished, we as tax preparers will know how to best aggregate all of the documented Social Security members of the family so that we can maximize their EIP. So any questions? Yes.
Yeah, Pat, there was a question about if you have children who are U.S. citizens with Social Security numbers, but both parents are undocumented.
Yes. Unfortunately, in that instance, if both parents are undocumented and the children have Social Security numbers, there is no mechanism for the undocumented parents to get the $500. So that is what we call a blocked point. That would block the ability to recover any of the $500. And that is truly, there are tremendous inequities in the EIP process, tremendous inequities. And this is one of many inequities that we have been struggling with. We just had an inequity the other day when on Monday, the IRS announced that unless Social Security recipients filed with their dependent children a simple tax return by Wednesday of noontime, within a 2-day process, that those dependent children would have to wait until April 15th of 2021 to get their $500. This has not been a fair and reasonable process, and that's why we're here to do everything we can to try to level that playing field. So yes, unfortunately, that is an issue. If an argument could be made, that the parents are not providing the support, but maybe grandparents, but that's very seldom, that might have working Social Security numbers, that may be, that may be a response, but that's a very difficult hurdle to overcome. Other questions? I certainly hope that, I don't know if I'm that good at covering all of these iterations, so please feel free to ask. We need to help each other to help them. So if there's something that's unclear that I've gone through that makes no sense, please let me know.
Hi, this is Tina Marie. I was wondering if you could repeat that last statement you made regarding the filing by the Wednesday at noon.
Yes, what happened this past Monday is the IRS came out with a notification out of the blue that any of these clients here any clients that received Social Security, SSDI, or SSI, or veterans benefits, if they had dependent children, Because if they don't have dependent children, they'll just get their check the normal way, Tina Marie. They'll just get it right away. But if they had dependent children, they would have been required to file a simple tax return with those dependent children on it, so that the dependent children could get the additional $500. What they did was they said, you folks, this class here of SSI, SSDI, and SS survivor benefits and VA benefits, if you do not file by Wednesday at 12 noon, you now need to have those dependents wait until April 15th, 2021, when you file your 2020 tax return. And they gave them literally a day and a half of notification, and Takima and I were scrambling, the whole group was scrambling, and I can tell you with clarity that probably none of our people in this cohort, while it might not be a big cohort of people, none of them knew this was probably that this rule came out. So this was a blind side, which we've gone to Jim Heim's office, and we brought it up to the highest level that we can bring it up to. And even Jim Heim says this is unfair and inequitable to seniors that may have grandchildren that they take care of, and certainly disrespectful to our veterans. So when we talk about inequity, that's an inequity, and the inequity, of course, with two people in a household that only have ITINs where children can't get any benefit, that's another inequity. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
I just want to clarify. So the economic impact payment, this is the stimulus check that we're all talking about, correct?
Yes.
And so I've been hearing mixed things, and I guess this is a perfect place to kind of clarify for my families as well. If there's back child support, are they still going to receive this payment?
Back child support is the only garnishment that exists. So if a husband has not paid child support, they will take child support off of that $1,200 payment.
Okay.
If a wife, similarly, if a wife, that is the only garnishment that exists. Student loan interest will not be a garnishment issue. Past tax liabilities that may be in the trap that taxpayers owe will not be an issue. So the $1,200 and the $500 should come across to all of those eligible to receive without any garnishment except for child support.
Okay.
Pat.
Yes.
I just want to interject. We were on a call the other day, and the question came up: if anyone owed their, federal taxes when they did their taxes this year, would that be confiscated through the stimulus? And no, it wouldn't be, like you said.
Right.
However, if they did direct debit, then the IRS would not deposit the stimulus into that same account. They would have to go onto the IRS portal to put their bank account information in order to get the stimulus.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So if somebody owed money on their tax return for 2019 and 2018 and they use direct debit, the IRS is not keeping a direct debit database. They're only keeping a direct deposit database. So immediately, if you want to speed up the deposit of the economic stimulus check and not wait 3 to 5 months for a physical check, what you need to do is bring them to EIP, to the EIP Get My Payment Status, so that they update their bank account information. That's a good point. So this Get My Payment is always used when there is either no banking information on file, or alternatively, the client was subject to direct debit, so that we can put the bank information in for direct deposit. Okay? Any other questions?
Pat, there was a question about the garnishment of from the EIP. If it was, let's say, child support, that the past child support would go to the person who was supposed to have received the child support, correct?
That's correct. It will go. So It's a good point. So theoretically, what's happening is families are benefiting indirectly, because immediately when that money's taken from someone who has failed to pay, the beneficiary will naturally be the children within the family that has not received the payment. So it's a very good point. So it's, while garnishment seems like a punishment, it's not. It's equalizing the inequities between the families themselves. That's exactly right. It's a good point.
There was another question about a family that has a child who's in college, and if the child filed tax return last year, what are the circumstances around that for payment to the family and to the child itself?
Okay, so let's talk. If it's so, the dependent credit of $500 is only for dependent children under the age of 17. So if a child is in college and being claimed as a dependent on his parents' tax return, the answer is he would not have been. He is not eligible for the $500 because his age limit bars him. However, if a child graduated this year, well, let's say a child graduated last year. He graduated last May, and he started working, and he had sufficient income, and he decides in 2019 to file on his own. Then the answer is yes. When he files on his own and is delinked as a dependent, he will then be entitled to the stimulus payment. Okay? So I get this all the time. I get parents telling me, well, he's really on his own. Well, how can he be on his own? He only made $2,000. You have to go through a facts and circumstance for every situation. But the vast majority of those children that are going full-time to college are really considered dependents of their parents. And because their age limit, because they're too old, they're not entitled to the $500.
Pat, we had another question regarding someone who has already submitted their bank account information but believes that they have submitted an incorrect bank account. How do they get that updated?
They need to go, once again, they need to fix that, because if they believe they've submitted it incorrectly, it will bounce back and the IRS will issue a snail mail check. So to fix that, once again, they need to go to EIP, get my payment, and put in the correct bank account information. So they'll go right to that portal. I will be honest with you, the portal is not working properly. The IRS recognizes it. It's been out there, how long, Takima? Over a week, and it's still not working?
Yes. It actually depends on, I guess, when you go on, because I went on several times and I got through once.
Yeah. It's not very reliable.
Yeah.
We're hoping that they're going to fix this, because that's critical. So if there's a checking account number that was badly entered, or if you changed banks and closed the bank account, that's the place you want to go. You want to go to EIP status and be able to update through Get My Payment. That's really where you want to be. There's no other way to fix it. So there's nothing that we can do on our end to fix it, other than for the client, or for you to kindly direct the client and help them go through EIP status.
I just
These are
want
all
to go.
great questions. Go ahead.
I just want to go back to the question about child support and clarify something. Yes, if the filer owes child support, that payment will be taken and given to the recipient. However, if that recipient's on state assistance, then the money will be split between the recipient and the state.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pat, before we wrap it up, if there are more questions, I gave everybody my email address and they can funnel them through me. And I will send them over to you if that's okay.
Yeah,
And then we can figure out the best way to get these questions answered. Are you willing to make your 2-page PowerPoint available for distribution, because it had the links to everything that you've talked about?
Yeah, we're gonna send everything over to them, because that's what they're gonna use in the field.
Right. Perfect.
So when they click on the EIP, this is what it takes them to. If I could I have 2 minutes maybe, and then?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. So this is what, when you click on EIP, you're going to go to this portal, this secure portal, and it's going to ask some basic questions, real easy questions. Basically, it's going to say, in 2019 were you and your spouse, if married, a U.S. citizen or permanent resident? If the answer is one of you are, it'll continue to take you through the EIP. So if taxpayer or spouse or both have valid Social Security numbers, it'll continue going. If neither of you, as we talked about before, if neither of the people in the household have valid Social Security numbers, it'll take them to our regular tax site to file a regular tax return, okay? So let's assume that both of them are. We'll make it easy. Then we ask very simple income questions. Was your income higher than 12.2 or 24.4 for a married couple? You don't include your Social Security payments. If the answer is yes, they need to file a regular tax return. If their income is below this threshold, they get to go on to the regular EIP. There's only 3 simple questions. In 2019, did you and your spouse have withholding that would possibly make you eligible for a refund? That was in Tina Marie's case, where if they had unemployment, they might have had withholding. We should file a regular tax return. The answer is yes, it brings you to the regular tax filing. The answer is no, it brings you on to the last question. Did you or your spouse have at least one dependent and may have earned income? If the answer is yes, you're probably beneficial to filing a regular return because you'll probably get earned income credit in addition to the EIP. If the answer is no, it takes you on to the EIP. It asks you for your basic information, your last name, first name, telephone number, very basic information, date of birth, Social Security, occupation, taxpayer's email. If they don't have an email, because we have many clients that don't have an email that come from very poor households, you can just click and skip it. An address. If a family is sheltered in a temporary homeless shelter, or living with a relative, or is using a job force program as an address, they can use a care of address. That's very important for anybody that's struggling with housing insecurity. Were you married at the end of 2019? Either yes or no. If it's yes, it'll bring you to the spouse. If you hit no, it'll skip it through. And then it'll ask you if you have dependent children under 17. The answer is no. All it asks you at that point in time is just to upload a picture of your driver's license and a picture of your Social Security. Now, in most of the iPhones and smartphones, it's real straightforward. When you hit the browse button, it'll take you right to your camera, and the client can take a picture of their driver's license and their Social Security card. Now, do you have a bank account for EIP? Because we're trying to get them bankable. We want to get these people bankable. If they have not already, through the decision matrix, if they have not already opened a hassle-free bank account, we give them one more chance at this moment in time. And if we say no, would you like to open a bank online? Would you like to open up an online bank account through our Key Bank initiative? The answer is yes. It'll take them directly to the Key Bank portal, and they'll enroll at that point. If the answer is no, it'll skip them. But our goal is to try to get them bankable, because we want to create a situation. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. We want to create a situation where, hang on. I guess I got shut out. I'm sorry. But we want to create a situation where they are encouraged to set up a bank account, so then we can help them with other programs, with finance programs, maybe get them enrolled on ALICE so they can get a match, okay? So that was the last piece of the interview. And then it gets submitted and it gets brought to our portal, where we, the tax preparers, take over the reins at that point. So if you just have them answer those basic questions and try to get them bankable, we do everything else. We do the rest. We evaluate how best to serve the client, what the best filing has got to be. So we've tried to make this as easy for you folks out in the field to just answer these questions with them. In some cases, you may have to hold their hand and actually open the file yourself and answer the questions for them and then submit it to us, okay? So that's the whole ecosystem. And we would be grateful if you folks would be able to help us get to those people that need this money.
And this is all through the virtual VITA system that you've developed, the links of which will be in the 2-page PowerPoint that we'll get
That's
out to
correct.
everybody. Okay.
That's correct.
That answers one of the last questions that just came in.
Yep.
Oh, this is amazing. All right.
Okay, so if there's any other questions, feel free to email me. My email is Pat, P-A-T-J, and my last name, Gentile, G-E-N-T-I-L-E @gmail.com. And we would be happy, either myself or one of my colleagues. If I don't have the answer, one of my colleagues has the answer. There's a lot of times I don't have the answers. Did I miss anything, guys, on our side?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. I can't tell you enough how grateful we are to have this opportunity, and we hope that we can partner with you and really make a difference as we get through such a difficult time for all your families.
Absolutely.
And I really
Sorry,
thank you.
okay.
And thank you very much, Bruce, for giving us the opportunity.
Well, and thank you for stepping up and volunteering. And you know, I could tell by the conversation that it sounds like there are a lot of families here who are going to absolutely take advantage of this. So thank you, Pat. Thank you to your team. Thank you. I think Sky left, but Social Venture Partners. Thank you very much. So I think we'll leave it there. You have my email address. You have Pat's email address. We will continue the conversation.
Thank you, guys. Have a
All right,
great
thank you,
weekend.
everyone.
Thank
you.
you,
Stay safe.
everyone.